I've been doing this one course for 8 months.
Everybody hear me? I think we're going to go ahead and start. Okay. That looks bring this up. Can you hear me now? Is that good?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? I've got to sit there. We're starting a little bit late here. Trying to let everybody catch up. I can't go back. Don't you love them? Everybody will tell you it's just a PC. Alright. So then everybody's kind of set me up great here. I'm Kyle James. Y'all probably heard a little bit about me. I don't know. Kind of doing a little branding here. .edu Guru is the blog. We're doing a lot of live blogging this event as it goes on. Carlin, who presented yesterday, is also writes on this blog with me. You know, a lot of this stuff has been the sexy, fun, social media, it's cool stuff. And I think kind of what Carla and I do a little bit more of than that is let's talk about the nuts and bolts. Let's talk about stuff that actually helps us make decisions. You know, ROI is a big part of that, but the other big part of the equation is web analytics and actually measuring stuff. And we're really going to dig into that here. Here's my email address so you can get in touch with me. There's the blog, so what the heck do all these numbers mean? I work at a small school in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's Wofford College. 1,500 undergraduate students. We don't have any graduates. It's a liberal arts school. I'm not going to really tell you a whole lot more about it than that. Unless you can talk about it later. So, points to cover here. We're going to try to build an argument. We're going to go through some key performance indicators and KPI. KPI are important here. We need to figure out what is important to us. We're going to go through some understanding some key terminology. All things Google Analytics, we're going to do all Googling. Some additional analytics and 4 rules of analytics. And I hope this doesn't get a little too technical because this gets a little technical. But like I said, we've kind of looked at all the fun stuff now. Let's look at actually how we can get meaningful business decisions out of it. So here we go. If a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? If you have a website and nobody comes to it, does it make a difference? Does anybody care? I mean, how do you know if anybody comes to your website? Are you listening to what your audience is telling you? Are you listening to these people that come? Do you know why they came? Do you know what they care about? Do you know what sites, what pages are important, and what departments are important? You know, what do they care about on your site? And how are you making web decisions? This is if you're not using web analytics to help you make decisions about what you do online, you are wasting your time. Pretty blunt, pretty brutal there. But you know, and how a lot of y'all are probably making decisions now because your boss told you, hey, I need you to do this. That's probably, you know, maybe you tell your people that you need to do this because the president says that. Well, you know, sometimes yes, sometimes no, but if you can actually build a picture with meaningful data saying, hey, we need to be doing this because this page is getting 100 visits a day, this one's getting 2. Or maybe this page does get 2 visits a day, it's what we really care about. How do we get more people to it? But you got to know that you don't get 2 visits a day before you can even know you need to do anything. So see where we're going here? This is meaningful stuff. So, you know, as I'm sitting at the desk at work trying to think, what is the purpose of our website? I mean, really ask yourself this. What is the purpose of your college website? What do you want to get out of it? I mean, most likely everybody in here would agree that my school is the most important thing. Now, you might have a library website, that you run as strictly reference, and your most important thing is to get people to help them find the resource they want. But big picture here, I work in a small school, so it's kind of my ability to kind of look through it. The most important thing is to get students to sign up and come to our school. Yeah, we care about alumni. Yes, we care about current students, and we care about, faculty, staff, but our number one most important audience is prospective students. And knowing that and building these kind of things, decide what is most important before you do anything, before you say, hey, social media is cool, before you go in and say, hey, I want to start measuring something, before you go to start designing new pages, you got to decide what is the purpose, what do you want to do. And, going back to long tail stuff, you got all this stuff, but is it important? So Alfred Sloan here, does anybody know who Alfred Sloan is? This is kind of my MBA sticking in on me a little bit. I had this printed out and I ended up leaving it. But Alfred Sloan is a longtime general chairman for General Motors. I'm screwing this all up. And he defined professional manager as someone who manages by fact rather than by intuition or emotion. Fact. In fact, you can't disagree with facts. It's either true or false, on or off, right or wrong. By capturing facts in an objective, concrete, and quantifiable way, we get a clear picture of the relationship between controllable process. I can't even say the word. Somebody want to say it for me? Competencies. There we go. This is the other thing. If I'm starting to talk too fast, y'all slow me down. This little South Carolina boy gets in front of big people and do what? Competency is desired private attributes and thus are able to set appropriate performance standards. So, that makes sense. That makes sense, right? But we need to think that way. We need to think about looking at the data instead of getting it. Yes, intuition's good, but why are you going to do something unless it's going to actually bring measurable, meaningful results? So, KPI, key performance indicators. It's kind of easy if you break your KPI into these four categories. So you've got sources, which is your campaign traffic, your success, which is your conversions. Carl did a good job yesterday talking about conversions. Conversions are your bread and butter. If you're not converting people, it doesn't matter if that's your goal. And that should be your goal. And you want people to do something. Every time you do something, it's because you hope that somebody does this. Is that not right? You create this page because you hope somebody does this. Measure that. Users, segmentation. Segment out your users. Just because you've got all these people coming to your site, we'll look at this in a second. Most likely for your marketing efforts, the people on your campus, that traffic's meaningless if you're looking at recruiting prospective students, right? So it's cluttering up your data and making it unmeaningful. And then finally, content. Content is key. I'll debate this with anybody. Navigation is important. Pretty pictures are important. Pretty pictures are essentially content. SEO is important. All this other stuff. Analytics are important. But if you don't have content, if you don't have stuff people care about, it doesn't matter if they can find it because they don't care about it. So what is important? What's important? Going back to this whole idea is prospective students are important. So what do we want to do? We want to get them to apply to our school, right? That's probably number one. Maybe if you're like Wofford, to us, our biggest selling point, even beyond that, is getting a student to schedule a visit and come to our campus. If we can do that, that sells. We've got a National Arboretum. It's a gorgeous campus. People are friendly. It's in the South. So everybody's like, hey, how you doing? So that's a good selling point for us. So that's another one of our more important things. For alumni, maybe we want to get them to donate. Maybe we want to get people to sign up for an email list to get notifications from us. We want to get them engaged in deciding what is important. Before you do anything, before you start looking at measuring anything, decide what's important. So let's understand some analytic terms. Probably everybody understands what a visit is, what a visit to a page is. To a pages per visit, it's pretty simple. Pages divided by visit gives you a pages per visit ratio. The absolute unique, just to talk about this for a second, in Google Analytics specifically, because that's kind of what I'm going to dig into a bunch here in a second. An absolute unique visitor on a report is that specific report. So if you're looking at a report for a month, then an absolute unique is for that month. If you're looking at it for a week, then an absolute unique is for that week. So it does adjust to the report that you're looking at. But that means that maybe I visit a page 10 times, but I really only visited once. That's one unique, but 10 visits. Percentage of new visits is kind of looking at the visit per absolute unique visit ratio. Traffic source, what brought them to your site. You know, was it a search engine? Was it email? Was it direct traffic when they typed in your address and URL? Was it another site that linked to you, social media? You know, what was the source of the visit? And then a landing page. And just to say a little bit about landing pages, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but this is important because not everybody's first visit to your site is your homepage. Every one of your pages has the potential to be a landing page through search engines. Now, the misunderstood terms, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, so I hope you go through some of these terms that we think we understand, but we really don't. Page views, to me, throw it out the window. It means nothing. What does a page view mean? It means they came to your site and they visited 5 pages and left. Well, great. What does that mean? If your most important thing is for someone to schedule a visit and they can do that in 3 clicks off the home page, then you're not being efficient. If you have a blog and your perfect audience is the people that read every single one of your blog posts and they know everything you do, so the only thing they care about is your most recent blog post, a page visit, a page view is 1. Because they already know everything else. They're not going to go see anything else. So, what does it mean? People say, I want more page views. Why? You want people to have to dig around more? Well, I mean, sometimes it's good. If your navigation is laid out really well, easy to understand, then maybe, 10 page views per visit is really good because it means they're finding out what they need to really easy. But it doesn't, so throw it out. Down here at the bottom, I think the slides are already up. I think they're already up on the blog. But these URLs, and I'm going to talk a little bit about redirect URLs and kind of print URLs here, but if you go stick in any of these in here, it's, this was edu.google/database/page views. It'll take you to a post that I've already written about this. So most everything, if I get over your head, all this is on the blog somewhere and a post. We've written so much junk, it's ridiculous. But it's cool because if you go stick this in, you'll notice that it'll also pin some tracking URLs like Brad was mentioning earlier, and I'll talk about later in a second. So average time on site, what does that mean? Well, we think it means if someone comes and visits 4 pages on our site, they come and visit the home page at 10 o'clock, and at 10:01 they go to page 2, and 10:05 they go to page 3, and then they exit. So they were on the site how long? 5 minutes. Because we have no way of measuring how long they spent on that last page. The way that these analytics work, or any of these tracking measures, is when a page is requested, a timestamp is given. So when the first page is requested at 10, that's recorded as a timestamp. At 10:01, another timestamp. We know that how long they're on that first page. But that last page, we have no way of knowing that. So analytics always pulls down 1. And most analytic tracking is 30 minutes is the max amount of time on a page. If someone's on a page for more than 30 minutes, it kind of boots that out too. So if they go eat lunch and they lock their computer, and it doesn't look at that after. It just assumes that they left. So bounce rates and exit rates. Does everybody know what a bounce rate is and exit rate is? Is that kind of familiar? Not really. A bounce is always an exit rate, but an exit is not always a bounce. A bounce means someone came to your site and that was the only page they visited and they left. Or they closed the browser window or whatnot. Now this can be a little deceptive because say we've got on our homepage a link to webmail, or any of our pages have a link to webmail. So if someone comes to our page, a student, because they want to go check webmail, they go click on that, that's registered as a bounce. Because we don't actually track that in email. Well, we don't really want to, and they probably don't want us to either. But just, to be clear with that. And an exit is they could visit 1, 2, 3 pages, then they exit. So that last page is an exit rate. And that's the percentage of people that come to that page and it's the final page they're on. Bounce is more important for landing pages, but it only matters to landing pages. Where exit means if you've got a funnel process, kind of like Carl was talking about yesterday, you've got these steps you want people to do, and you notice that they're leaving on step 2, they're exiting out there. Well, that's the whole of your process. That's what you need to clean up. That's what you need to do better. So bounce is always an exit, but an exit is not always bounce. Traffic types. Search engines, referral, there are all kinds. And you'll notice in Google Analytics, I don't know if y'all can really see this, but it even will tell you, is it organic? Organic is, there's really 3 main types of traffic. There's referral, direct, and search. And search is split into organic. Anytime it says organic, that means a search engine from a link that you didn't pay for. You might see PPC or CPC or some of that other stuff. That means PPC means you pay per click. You paid for that visit from the search engine. CPC is with a click per review. It's another form of that. Referral means another site sent traffic to you, and direct means they typed it directly into their browser. So benchmarking. Looking at some bigger picture stuff before we really dig into some Google Analytics. There are 3 good services out there that can help you benchmark your site. And what I mean by benchmarking is traffic comparisons. If you want to compare the traffic of your site to some of your competitors, some of our big competitors are Elon and Furman and Davidson. They're all in the Southern Conference with us. So, I can go to Alexa and see how does our traffic trend compare with some of these other services. It's really hard to make actionable decisions about this, but it's good to kind of know where you stand every now and then. I don't look at this any more than once a month. And just to show you down here in the bottom, this is looking at Wofford's profile in Quantcast, which is a third one. It's really cool because you can actually get some free demographic data about your site. You can tell here that 61% of our visitors are male, 39 are female, and go through age groups and children, no children, education, ethnicity, income level, and you can kind of see some monthly averages. So it's kind of cool. Throw that out there, but kind of something that, just as a little quick plug, me and some friends of mine are starting our own little business called NewCloud. We went ahead and created a tool that kind of pulls from these 3 sources and some other back-end stuff, and it can rank your college. Tell you how you compare against 2,000 other schools. It's a quick little thing. Check out the link. Just to say a little bit about NewCloud, we're really kind of getting into interactive maps and video streaming. Interactive maps is probably the most important thing students care about on your site as far as recruitment tool. So interactive maps are important. Make sure they're done right. Website Grader is another cool little tool you can help use benchmark. You just stick it in. This will give you a lot of good SEO information, some other good stuff. For example, I can put in Wofford.edu and compare it to Furman and Elon, and it'll give me this whole smorgasbord of data about is my site doing this well? How am I doing some of this? Just test it out. I can go through all day, or there's a post that I wrote about it a while back. Benchmarking. Google Analytics has benchmarking too that you can pull from industry. At the top you see society, education, colleges and universities. That's how you would dig into Google Analytics to get to this kind of see how your institution compares to the big overlying industry. Types of clickstream data. Google Analytics, there are other types of data clickstream data is web analytics. It's just kind of a more specific way to describe it. Web logs is what your server picks up whether you want to care about analytics or not. Every web server is tracking data. This is more technical data. This is more about is your site down, is this page missing. Web beacons is what email clients mostly use now, meaning that the way they track is through they embed a 1-by-1 pixel graphic on an email. That's why you'll see that they say please enable graphics. If you don't enable graphics, if your user doesn't enable graphics, then that's not being tracked. So those emails are not being tracked unless they click through and they have that kind of stuff set up on the links. But most of the time, unless they enable graphics on their end, you're not knowing whether they're open emails or not. And that's used for some other stuff. Banner graphics still use web beacons. Packet sniffers are real technical stuff that you would actually put in between your server and the internet. It's kind of like a firewall or a packet sniffer. And you can actually, this is really good if you want to get live data for almost usability tests, and it's real technical that you have to go to a network admin, but just to kind of make y'all familiar with it. You can actually see where people are going on your site and what, it's good for following paths of specific users. But this does get into some privacy issues with packet sniffing. And then JavaScript tags, which is the vast majority of analytics tracking now. It's where all of the advancements now are really being pushed into is JavaScript. The thing about JavaScript though is 95 to 97 roughly percent. It's 95 to 97% of your users have Java enabled, JavaScript enabled. So it's never going to be perfect. None of these tools are perfect. If you have every one of these installed on your site, all running, none of them will report the exact same data. So this is not an exact science. We're just trying to get educated guesses to make more informed, better decisions. Of course, anybody catch something wrong with this? Can I call that? What's wrong with this picture? I'm trying to get y'all laughing.
No veterans?
Well, I mean, I can put up with something. No, Mint, that's the financial institution. I kind of screwed that up. Come on, y'all. So that the 1090 rule, Avinash, who wrote the book that I actually was going to hold up, I'm going to go grab it. I'm going to grab that. Web analytics an hour a day. If you really want to get serious and learn about this is the book. This is the only book I would even recommend starting with. But one of the things, Avinash actually works for Google and is in charge of the whole Google Analytics team. Before that, he used to work for Intuit, Quicken, TurboTax, all that kind of stuff. I mean, this guy knows his stuff. But his 1090 rule basically says, does anybody have web trends or anything out there that they're spending tons of money on? Urchin, how much? $30,000 on it? $50,000? Do you have anybody that actually understands what's coming out of that data? See, the 1090 rule basically says spend 10% of your budget on the tool and 90% of the budget on people that use the tool. And with Google Analytics, it's free. So you can spend 100% of your budget on the actual people. Because with Google Analytics, there's a lot of other ones up there. All of the previous slides, all those are free. If you can get good enough data from a free solution, it's better than having data that you don't understand from a solution that you're paying lots of money for. You're wasting your money because no one's really interpreting that and making good decisions. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong. Those are great solutions, but make sure you have good people that can spend the time and really understand what's going on in those. So Google Analytics, who uses that Google Analytics again? I kind of should have turned around yesterday. So pretty much everybody. There's no reason not to. It's free. The only reason not to is because you're kind of scared of Google every data view because they already do it anyway. They already know it whether you want to or not. Installing Google Analytics is super simple. You just stick this on your template. If you have a CMS, if you got static pages, it's probably a little more difficult. Maybe you have an include file or something. For basic installation, you want to have this at the bottom of your page, right above the closing body tag. There are some advanced stuff that we're going to look at here where you need this at the top of your page. And the reason you need it on the top of your page is because some of these functions call the code, but if the code is not already running, it doesn't have a process. And I'll talk about that, but 95% of the time you're going to want it at the bottom, but if you just slap this on your template, you might want to go ahead and stick it at the top. And the fear with that is, because people ask me, is this going to slow down my page? Yeah, that's why you want it at the bottom, but Google's so fast that most likely your server's going to slow it down. And then here I've also added a line that says subdomain Wofford.edu. This is so you can track subdomains on the same profile that you can your main domain. Meaning if you've got admission.wofford.edu or a blogs.wofford.edu, you can track all of that data in one giant profile, or you can also split it out into multiple profiles. There is also ways to track in the same profile across multiple domains. I'm planning on writing about that sooner or later. If you have trying to do that now, come talk to me. I'd be glad to talk you through how to do that. Once you've installed it on the page, you kind of, well, how do I know what's on my page right? How do I know if it's pulled right? These are two cool little free tools that you can test. Well, SiteScan is free to an extent. I think it scans 10,000 pages free. And WASP is a Firefox plugin. It's really cool. Any analytic guru junkies like me that just like more Firefox plugins. Anytime I go to a new page, it kind of tells me in the bottom right hand corner what they're using to track. I don't know. I stay up at night thinking about that kind of stuff. But these are, check out those tools. So now, data overload. Most likely you've got all this data, you've got 100, 200,000 visitors a month, or more. Probably most of y'all are more. We got small schools. So what do we do with all this? Well, we segment and filter. In Google, and this is one of the things most people don't realize. In Google Analytics, once you install that code on there, you can install up to 100 profiles with that code. What does a profile mean? It means you can segment out data to track specific things, and we'll talk through some of these filters you can use. But it also means that if you've got your admission site running on a subdomain and your main site you don't need two different tracking codes. That can all be in one code. Get that straightened out, and then you can use profiles to just track that subdomain or just track that subdirectory or just track that completely separate site. It's important when you set this up to set it up with or without the doves. This is good because it cleans up your data. It's also good for SEO, so use your SEO soap. Make sure you set up your default, whatever your default is, if it's php.index or index.php, default.asp, whatever. You want to include the URL, any URL queries, session IDs, because most likely those are so specific to what your user's doing and not really yours. So you want to kind of clean that out. And set up site search. Site search is your bread and butter. This is your users telling you. We'll get into this. I won't talk too much. Am I losing anybody? Am I going to? Everybody's kind of looking at me like,
Oh, no, we're right with you.
you going? But see, y'all got to tell me to slow down. Get my Boomhauser talk going on.
It's not that all the accents make it hard.
So this is some of the profiles we've got set up in our Google Analytics. But we've got lots of stuff. You can split out admission traffic, mission subdirectory traffic that's only off-campus visits. So that's a little bit more important if your admission folks want to know about that than it is looking at the big bucket and trying to then sort through it. You go ahead and set up,
So are you saying like each of those would be a separate report?
This is a whole separate profile. So if you've ever logged into Google Analytics, it gives you all of this data. But you can make those separate profiles into tracking specific things. Meaning you only want to track a certain subdirectory, or you only want to track a certain subdomain, or if you only want to, you just want to set up something because your goal is I want to recruit students in my city because you're a community college, for example. So you can do this kind of stuff, but you have to make sure you just keep on creating new profiles, and we'll dig into that here in a second. I'll get onto that filter. So standardizing data, yes, ma'am.
So if I want to do the separate reporting, then I should set up all the separate domains, separate profiles, rather than
yes.
you said before.
Well, you can have one profile that's everything,
right?
But you should definitely be setting up a different profile for everything.
Okay, so we do, but then I thought you said you could track domains from that main one.
Can you track domains from the main one?
Yeah.
You can set up another profile that does track your main domain and everything in one big bucket.
Right.
And you're going to want to do that. But I'm saying you can also set up a profile that pulls from the same big bucket of data, but it's filtering and only showing you people that visit your wofford.edu/admission that are off campus. Because we'll show you how to filter out on-campus traffic. So standardize. Remember I said you want to make sure you put your doves or no doves. All four of these are the exact same page, but they show up as four different things in Google Analytics. This is bad. You don't want to do that. So you want to make sure you're standardizing your data. And this is probably one of my favorite filters. And like I said, there's a blog post here. All of this is up on the blog. But this is a good one. All lowercase filter, meaning that all of your data in Google Analytics is lowercase. It's good because some people might put a capital D when they put your default page, or they might put a capital whatever. This goes in and cleans that out so that's not showing up twice. Pretty simple. And I really recommend doing this on every report. There are certain people that track campaigns differently, but we can talk about that more. So the doves or no doves. This goes into even SEO stuff. This is great to do because it cleans up your analytic data, but this is so important. I see a lot of schools that do this wrong. It doesn't matter if you want to use them or not. We use the doves, some people don't. But if you go to your site, when you get back to campus or now or whatever, and type in your site with or without, it should redirect to one or the other. Meaning if I go type in wofford.edu, it should take me to www.wofford.edu and display that. If it just takes you to wofford.edu without the doves, that's duplicate content. That's bad for SEO. But it's also bad for your analytics. And of course there's a big old post about how to kind of clean up that. Now, filtering your data, because like I was saying, not everybody always wants the same thing. Your admission people want to look at their data, your alumni people want to look at their data, maybe your career service people care about their data. So filtering some of that out and finding out what their missions are can really help you. And this is your filter about how to do subdomain traffic. You can go ahead and set this up and you can include, we were actually able to win the battle for the athletics section on athletics.wofford.edu, even though they're on their own CMS now. I'd recommend doing that if you can hold on to that. One domain is always better than a bunch of them, but this is kind of how you would go about doing that, is with this filter. Including all domain traffic filter, you're going to want to set this up on your big bucket profile. It's going to pull from all your subdomains, but you have to do this if you install that code at the top. You have to set this up, otherwise it'll look, your data will be messed up when you're looking at all of your different subdomains. But you want to make sure you set this up, do it all in one. Exclude IP traffic filter. This is what I was talking about when you most likely don't care about your traffic on campus, right? Well, you do in some profiles, but for a recruitment standpoint, admission really only cares about people off campus, and any on-campus traffic is probably them making sure their page is right, if they do that, and just going through on that. So this is kind of how you would do this. Once again, check out the post. There is a way to do IP ranges, but it's a little more technical, so you probably want to send your tech geeks together to filter through some of this. This is the directory. This is what I'm talking about. You want a profile that you can set up multiple profiles. I think we've got 20 of them set up just for different subdirectories. And with Google Analytics, you can tell it to shoot a report once a month or whatnot. So if I go set up a profile how I want it, with admission-only traffic, that only tracks people off campus, and you kind of set that up, that's much more meaningful to that specific department. Same for your alumni, same for your development, same for your current students and academics or whatnot, just depending on how you want to do that. Country filter. This is a kind of another good one, that if you want to, maybe you want to set up a profile and you want to target some international students in a certain country, you can do that. If you want to target, if you're a community school and you just care about people in your city, this is how you would do that. You would take country into, I think it's for region or it'd be city. And then you can actually only look at people in your city who are visiting your site. Combining this with the other filter we just looked at to exclude IP traffic, you're getting people in your city. You know, this is where we're starting to make the data mean something to us, because this is the audiences we're trying to understand what they're doing to make decisions. So if you're a community college and you set this up where you've got just your city traffic, but not your campus traffic at your city, you're starting to get a little bit more. Full referral, this is kind of pretty cool. Not really worth talking about that. Tagging traffic. Tracking, the way I like to say is tracking. We call this tracking. So you've got all this stuff. How do you make sure that it's coming in the right way? This is kind of what Carl was talking about. This is a cool little tool that I kind of put together. It's a Google Doc that you can go download it. And what's really important about this whole destination URLs, you'll notice the top line here is the actual URL to the post, but the bottom line is all the tracking that it includes on it. And that's important because that lets you know that this specific campaign or whatever it is driving that traffic. This is so important specifically for email. You set up your social media links this way, and whatever else, you can set up your offline campaigns using these kind of through a redirect, and then that specific traffic, you're tagging it and you know what is causing, why is this page doing it? Well, it's because of this segment. Or you compare this against multiple campaigns and you can say, well, your Facebook was driving this much traffic compared to your email campaign that was driving this. And if you send out all these campaigns using your different tools, using this, you can measure which one was successful, so then going forward, you can put more of your eggs into that basket. And, just set up spreadsheets for stuff like that. This is a spreadsheet you can go get, because once you start getting into URL tracking, you're going to forget how you're doing it. It's so important that if you're using LinkedIn that you make sure it's one word or you're doing underscore or dash. You want it to always be the same way, so that when you look in your data, it's clean. Kind of like we were just looking at. You want clean data. Tracking links. Google Analytics can track PDFs. Google Analytics can track movie downloads. Google Analytics can track people leaving your site and going somewhere else. You just have to do a little bit extra legwork. So what you would do is you kind of add this on-click equals JavaScript. There's no point. It's all there. But you can set this up. And this is just pulling. I like to put all the PDFs in a subdirectory on my analytics. So this is Social Media Rubin. That's Rachel Rubin's PDF she put out that I think we talked a little bit about yesterday. That was driving a bunch of traffic. I could actually measure how many people were opening that PDF. If you have your view book online in PDF, wouldn't it be kind of nice to know who's actually downloading your view book? You can do that. You You can do that. You can measure that. If you want to care, if you have a video that's through a flash video, but you don't necessarily have it through some other service, but it's on your own end, you can measure that through Google Analytics by setting up this kind of stuff. You can also tag audience segments using some stuff. Won't really get into this, but this is very useful for getting those buckets of data that are actually more meaningful. Once you can start segmenting your audience and getting into a little more segments, if you're sending out an email campaign, it's really important for prospective students. Well, that's great. You know on the email end how many of them open it and click through, but once they get to your site, what happens? Well, using this URL destination, and you can also use this kind of stuff to actually know then what that audience is doing once they come to your site. That's important. You know, if you know that they're going and then go and reading your blogs, well, then maybe you start putting a little more time and energy in the blogs. If you find out they're all going to your videos, well, then, you know, you can kind of start making decisions over time about where you need to be going. So let's look at a few reports. I mentioned site search. This is your usability test. This is your users telling you where your site screws up. You know, if they're going and searching for bookstore, that means they can't find your bookstore on your site. They care about that. If they're going and looking for employment, that means they think you're cool and they want to come work for you, but they don't know how to find that. It also can mean they're just lazy. And I think, 40% of visitors would rather just search than actually go look for stuff on your site. Navigation is important, but having your search done right is important too. And this is good keyword data. People are telling you how they like to say things. The perfect example I always like to throw out there is, what do we call buildings that students live in? Residence halls. What do they call it? Dorms. You know, how should we be designing our pages? Because if they're searching for them, they're going to be searching for dorms, not residence halls. There's tons of data here. You know, Greek life shows up in here. Well, that tells me they're looking for Greek life, not fraternities, sororities, or whatnot. Now, yes, they do look for that kind of stuff, but it's farther down. This is where you can get into the long tail stuff to help you set up your keywords on your page, to help you do keyword research for SEO and things like that. And it also gives you, what percentage of your visitors or can't find what they want to do. How many times do they have to research? Not all the time that somebody searches are they on your home page. Well, maybe digging in here, you find out they get to my admission page, and then they go start searching for something. Well, you can find out what they searched for on that page and find out why you failed, why you failed in your visitor. If you're not basing your decisions on this kind of stuff, you're just kind of guessing. You're not really addressing the needs they have for you. Keyword report, kind of going back to the whole internal site search. That site search means when someone searches for something on your site, you have to set that up and then it gives you that. This is keyword reporting from the search engines. This is the bigger picture. You notice here that, I don't know if y'all can see that, none of the first 9 all have Wofford in it. So that means out of the big bucket of traffic that the search engine is sending, everybody looks for Wofford comes to our site. And number 10 here is Betsy Cotton novels. Well, that's one of our English professors who writes the novels. Hey, people are coming to our site looking for her. Maybe there's an opportunity there for us to do something around that page or to do some kind of promotion and get us out into some other channels. And keyword was great for the long tail stuff. You can really get in here and see what is this, the campus dorm thing's a perfect example. You find out to search for campus dorm, and you can go do some work that way. This helps you make decisions about where you need to be spending your time. Content by title report. I like using this one because titles are so important for search engines. A lot of people find your site through search engines. What I was saying earlier, landing pages, any page on your site, could be the first page they have. It could be the first experience they have with your school at all. Think about that. You've got some varied content that looks like junk, but somebody finds it in search engine, that's their first experience with you. You can go through here and find out, once you know page titles, you can even do stuff where you want to only go look at landing pages. And then you can see, well, people are coming to this news story. Well, cool, this news story is about admission. Maybe I can go put a link on my admission, to admission and get them to apply. Or it's something we also have a video related to. Maybe you go embed a video on that page, that news release, and you're making that content better for your audience. But you don't do this until you know what is important, what are they actually caring about. Then you get that better. You make that content better. Referring sites report. It's important to know where your traffic's coming from, where your people are coming from. And you'll see that Wofford.edu is up there. The first one is a redirect we have from internal. Wofford FY is kind of like a social network we have for incoming students. Terrier Fans is a forum for fans of our athletic department. And right there, number 5 is Facebook. Facebook is driving, right up there at the top of the most traffic to our site. Why is that? You can go in here and find out what it is about Facebook, what pages they're coming from. And if you use some of these other tricks that we talked about earlier, if you have control of some of these pages, and if you can go set those links where they've got this tracking on, then you know that segment, these 1,800 visitors that came to your site through Facebook, and what do they do? Maybe I really care, but maybe that's a really important audience, because that's most likely going to be prospective students coming from Facebook. Getting that data and digging in a little bit more, and this is an ongoing process. None of this happens overnight. You kind of do a little bit more. You come to, it's a scientific method. You think, well, how can I find out a little bit more about this? And you use some of these tricks we're talking about. You do a little bit more, and you keep on trying to reach Nirvana there. So the 404 error page. Does anybody have custom 404 pages? They even know what I'm talking about when I say custom 404 pages? If you check out this post, there's actually a way in Google Analytics that you can track that. And you can, I don't know if you can really see here, but the athletics, baseball, people go to that. Once we used to have it on our site, and now it's taken off our site. Or even there is people go look for Wofford.edu/math. That's not a page on our site. It's mathematics. So knowing this, instead of just giving them a big dump fail message, we can give them a random page saying, hey, sorry, we didn't have this. Here's our sitemap. Here's a link to our sitemap. If you want to go to the Wofford site, just test it out and see how we do ours. There's even a search box right there. What's the recommendation? Maybe you can try this. But I can also sit here and pull out where we failed. What were they looking for? They didn't find. And then I can go and fix these problems. If I know they look for math, well, I can go set up a redirect on math to redirect to mathematics, because I know that's what they're looking for. If they type in Wofford.edu/admissions, that's failed. That doesn't go anywhere. But if I can fix that form without them having to do anything, I'm making that user experience a little bit better. But I don't know about these things unless I'm looking at this kind of stuff. I don't know what to fix unless I know where we failed. So going into the goals and conversions, this is so important. I wish we did more of this. Carl did a great job talking about it. This is the bread and butter. This is where you really decide whether you're making business decisions, where your ROI comes from. And Google Analytics does a really good job of helping you set up this and even putting dollar amounts on it. It's not perfect, but I would say it's 90-95% accurate in giving you this data. I won't really dig into that too much. So, alright, we know how to do all this stuff on our site. We know how to track and segment and all this, but wait, there's more. Because as we've talked a lot about, so much of the conversation about our school isn't going on our site, is it? It's being out there in Facebook, on other news sites, wherever else. And there's so much more that you can dig into and you need to be monitoring, you need to be, tracking and measuring. Newsletters, Facebook, TV. Do you know that you can actually measure the success of a TV campaign if you've got a link back to your site? Did you know you can do that? Talking about these whole redirects that I've been putting up here. You've seen a TV commercial that says oursite.com/TV10. You've probably seen that. That takes you to a specific page related to that commercial. Well, that means they've got 10 commercials, and they're measuring all 10 of these commercials and seeing which one's the most successful. And then saying, hey, we're going to do more about that. Yeah?
We actually were doing that for a little bit. We stopped doing it because people would type in our first part of our URL, and then they would just hit return, and that was it. So they ended up on our main site and search from there, because these URLs were ridiculously long.
Well, and you saw the URLs I was showing were ridiculously long, weren't they?
Right, but even still, I just went in our neighborhood. We're a pretty well-known school, so if you see an ad, you can type in our site.
And a lot of people were, but there will still be a segment of your audience. Like I say, none of this stuff's perfect.
Oh, right.
But if you get 50%, do what?
No, we were attracting this running because people were just good at what they said.
I would just say, if you have some sort of call to action or a hook that makes them want to type in that whole URL, obviously it's a general campaign, but if there's something like, go here and get specific information, maybe something like that.
Yeah, that page needs to go to a specific landing page, meaning it needs to be specifically related to that campaign. You're not trying to send them to your admission apply page. You want that page to be something that's going to be uber important to whatever it was. If it was a TV commercial talking about, bungee cords, and you want that to be all about bungee cords with very few links except for what you really care about in that campaign.
I see what you're saying, but we also have really limited budget. So if we're spending money on driving people to our website, we want them to go to our website versus spending a lot of money to drive people to a microsite.
But this isn't really a microsite. It's just a landing page on your site.
I see what you're saying. We're coming from a much more, our pockets are really not free.
Well, all this is free. I mean, nothing I'm doing. These redirects where I've used .edu/StayMate/redirect. I mean, that can be shorter, but that's pretty specific because why I have StayMates in there is because I presented this at a couple other conferences. I'm actually measuring which one of these links people click on to help me make this presentation better in the future. If I know that everybody in the last one, a good bit of the people went and looked at the filters. I kind of picked up that when I went through filters, y'all looking at me like deer in headlights, like, I don't know what you're talking about. So that helps me figure out where I need to be spending more time. And because in my tracking, in my URL parameters, it actually tells me what presentation, what conference sent that traffic through there. To kind of give you an example from what I'm doing here, if you have a TV campaign and you've got 10 of them, having that short URL that then does a redirect to somewhere else with this, and the redirect then applies this tracking. Like this doesn't have the tracking on it at all, but the redirect has the tracking on it. So they're not having to type on a big old long URL, but you're measuring how successful that specific campaign, because you've got the same campaign. I've got the same campaign for this presentation, for example. Running here, I ran it last month at Hyatt Web, and I run it next month at Case 5. And to see, measuring those three campaigns, seeing which pages, were effective, which drove which traffic. If you're doing, for example, our alumni just got through doing a Give Me 5 campaign for our young alumni for the last 5 years. And what they did was, they used Facebook, they used email marketing, and they used print through our quarterly magazine, Wofford Today, and they sent out postcards. And every one of them had a different short URL on it. And we can measure across which campaign was the most effective. And even then, email still beat out Facebook. It was close. It was like 23 to 25%. Actually call to action in the print was like 0.0001%. So we pretty much failed on that print campaign. But then we can measure which one of those actually sent people to the site. And because then they're in these buckets now, that's specifically a Facebook bucket, we know, do those people actually go and give money, or they just come to the site? And we also split that out by class. So we've also got different URLs for classes across these campaigns. It takes a little bit of time to set this stuff up, but it's not costing you anything.
I know that's not what costs you money. What costs you money is the $14,000 a month to spend on a billboard. And if I put St. Thomas EDU / billboard, they stop at St. Thomas EDU and they get returned.
And I guess my question I would ask you is, did you just say that billboard wasn't being effective? And you know that now. So now you can get that 14.
Maybe it is being effective, but I can't track it from online because the behavior of the user isn't following through with the maximum billboard
I think what he's talking about, though, isn't necessarily saying put the redirect as billboard, like the medium that you're doing. It's like if you're presenting and, let's say, Michael Jordan's coming to your campus, it'd be like stthomas.edu/Jordan. So you know that it somewhat applies to it. Or a lot of schools, what they'll do is they'll put their edu domain /go/ and they call them like the vanity URLs. There's a short little thing that'll get you what they're talking about. Not necessarily just billboard, because that really doesn't tell you much. It's just telling you a medium. It's not doing anything.
Right.
And there's no reason you can't go by myschoolbillboard.com and redirect that. There's no reason you can't buy a whole other domain specifically for this campaign. It's $7 a year. That's probably worth the effort if you're running into that problem. And all of that billboard traffic is getting redirected through these kind of things to a specific landing page.
And
Okay.
yeah, I just want to say on that too. I think you're making an assumption there that that people are taking the URL from your billboard and typing it in there because you don't have tracking installed. You can't tell that that's how people got to your homepage. Maybe they came to your homepage for something completely different, and the billboard had absolutely no influence. But regardless, it's still good information to see, even if you're not getting hits on your tracking URL. That's good information too.
But I was just to say, and the truth is that you need to know your own community because we do advertising in the subways in New York City,
Right.
which is very expensive. And actually, our URL/subway works really well because we also advertise in print. We do other places, and people remember they saw it in the subway.
Right.
So you have to also understand. And is somebody going to not type in /subway? Absolutely, it does happen, but we can see a spike in hits
Right.
to a particular part of our site during the run of those subway ads. And as you said, it's not an exact science, but if I get 237 hits that were /subway, I know that a good percentage of that other spike is going to be because people saw it in the subway.
Right.
So
And that helps you make
and it
that
helps you
campaign.
make those same decisions, even if not everybody uses the vanity URL.
And none of this stuff will always pull all data and will not always get everybody to do it right. There will probably be some of y'all that don't remember this presentation. You'll go to .eduguru.com and sit and look for, Google Analytics filters. I mean, that's gonna happen. But if I can get anybody to come do it, it's more than I would have if I didn't do it at all. And I mean, that's kind of the takeaway from this. That if you're doing these things, you're getting data that you can make better decisions off of. And then again, if you've got the time, you can also go and look and see who is searching for Google Analytics filters on the blog. Granted, I don't know then that it was this conference that drove that decision to happen to somebody. I just know someone went and looked for Google Analytics filters. But if I know that they came through this way, I know that you were at this conference or you saw the blog post about this conference and that caused you to make that decision. It was that specific thing that caused you to do that call to action and make that commitment. And then now I can track that segment and see how effective am I being in that specific campaign. And this works great for print too. It works great for billboards. It works great for TV. You can do it on radio. If you want to set up a campaign in your athletic events and you want to promote something, you want to say, I don't know, we could call it wocosports.com as a redirect somewhere. If you want to use file your own domain name, or you can do something else. It's all about being creative. I mean, there's unlimited ways to use this, and I'm probably not doing a good enough job giving good enough examples because it's like I kind of come to 30 of them here just kind of think of stuff, and I probably should give some more examples. Another, going back to this print, we also did one for homecoming where we do 10-year class reunions. And we've been really lucky because alumni have been very jumpy on all this, and we're still trying to get admission to be more jumpy on it. But, 1968, 1978, 1988, 1998. Each one of those was going out. We did this through email marketing and sent a specific message out to each one of these audiences. And through these tracking parameters, we were able to then tell, which one of these groups, because they're all coming to the same page, or if you want, you can even create separate pages specific for each. But we wanted to all print on the same page. But we wanted to know which of these segments, which of these audiences was coming most to the site. And then we can even tell, of course we're going to know anyway which one of those donated because we've got that on the back end. But we know this channel then was what caused them to donate. Compared to maybe they just came through it on their own or they remembered it later. Yeah, there'd be those people that'll still go to the site later on and find it. But if some of them do it this way, it's a little bit more data than we would have otherwise. Just to kind of, I've heard a lot of people say that email don't work, email's dead. Email does work. Email works if you have content that is relevant. And content on your site is important, content on email is relevant. I mean, these are just kind of two examples, and, there's a lot going on, but because we built this perception now of our email marketing, they're going to get, something relevant. Even if they don't get something relevant in this, we also offer them kind of like a little feature that maybe that's important to. Maybe they care about that. But here's a link to a video. How many ways can we get them to come back to the site? To me, email marketing is come to my site. I want to get you to click on something and come to my site. It's not read news and then be done with it. We want to get you engaged because maybe then you'll find something else you're interested in. But just to kind of talk a little bit about an email campaign, this was the homecoming campaign that we sent out. You'll even notice we kind of launched a LinkedIn group, and I'll talk about that in a second. But this is kind of the homecoming email. And setting up on all of these links this tracking parameter that I was just talking about. And we use Bronto for email marketing. And I'm able to get this kind of data in Bronto. But then also on the back end in Google Analytics, I can come and actually see that traffic on the site and find out where they went. Which, really interesting, here a month or 3 weeks after the event, they're still using that email to come to the site, still engaged. There is a long tail even in email.
Yes.
So, and what's amazing is these emails, they'll, even after the event, after homecoming's over, people are still clicking on stuff in that email. Yeah, homecoming is one of the bigger ones but you'll notice that this happens in all of these, that there'll be that person that cares about that email and will save it for later and refer to it on. But then once you can kind of know what this traffic does on your site, bam! Then you can build other stuff around that. What does this audience care about? What caused them to do this? And then it's big picture stuff. You send out 10 emails in a month, you kind of start finding out which one is effective, which one's not effective. This doesn't happen overnight. Then you start setting up, A/B testing, which means you send a subject line to 50% of your people and a different subject line to 50% of your people, and you find out which one's more effective. It's an ongoing process, but you got to start thinking about these kind of things in your decision making. And going back to blogs, I tried to get Matt to do it, but FeedBurner is a must for blogs. If you don't put FeedBurner on your RSS for blogs, all RSS feeds should go through FeedBurner because A, they give you tons of great analytics, but they also standardize your feed. I've seen some blog feeds on some older sites, some older platforms that were not completely compatible with all RSS readers, and there's a fail right there. If they go to read your feed and they can't get it to work, but our FeedBurner will clean that up and it'll give you lots of stats. Share This is kind of a social media. It's like the other must install on a blog. And we actually have it on our newsroom. We use another called Add This. But why not have a way that people on news releases can share this kind of stuff? But Share This also can give you some data about this kind of stuff. And this is coming through, I don't know if you can read it, but blogperfume.com/feed analysis will actually take your FeedBurner data and give you some graphical layout of it. Kind of let you know what day of the week is driving traffic. And of course, FeedBurner's got a lot of back stuff in too. But it helps you to know, hey, is my campaign working or not? Are we growing? Is it stagnant? Well, if my goal is to grow my RSS subscription count, you got to know if anybody's coming in the first place, and then you start building towards that. Then you can kind of say, I want to make decisions throughout the site to get people to start subscribing. So how can I do that? And Share This, it'll give you all kinds of little data. It'll tell you, how are people sharing your media? What way are they sharing? Are they deliciousing it? Are they sending it on Facebook? Still, overwhelmingly, the number one way to share content is through email. That's the way that most people still share a great blog post, a great news story, whatnot, is they email it to their friend. So it's not dead. But you don't know these kind of things without kind of looking at some of the analytics. And, take a step back and kind of this other idea that I throw out, there's this Web Analytics 2.0. So we looked at all this technical data. We looked at all this specific numbers. It's all numbers. But Web Analytics 2.0 is kind of this whole thought that with social media, there's this whole other communication going on. There's surveys. There's a lot. There's quantitative data, but there's also qualitative data. And this kind of encompasses all that, reading comments, understanding what's going on out there in other platforms, other communities, what people are saying about you, measuring some of that, getting customer surveys. There's no reason you can't send an email out asking your audience what they care about. You shouldn't be doing this. It all comes back to measuring this kind of stuff and making decisions based on it. Two cool free tools you can use in this 4Q. It'll kind of embed a survey, a really quick 2 or 3 question survey on pages. Maybe if you have a specific landing page that you're driving email members of your alumni to, say specific audience, you want to ask them some certain questions. This is a tool you can use to kind of ask them some of that. SurveyMonkey's another free one. There's lots of other ones that cost money or free. But, ask your people what they care about. You've got these audiences, and we look at all the data and we can make decisions on that, but, the best data you can still get is just to ask them. Don't ever be afraid of it. And once again, you're not going to get everybody to respond to you, but the people that do respond are either going to be very optimistic or very pessimistic. They're either going to say, we love what you do, or we hate what you do. So you're going to get both extremes. And that's important to build around that.
Do you do anything to incent those kind of surveys? Or are you just preying on people to be nice to you?
Sometimes. Sometimes we'll say, hey, come do this, Depends on the audience too. Like Brad's talked about, sometimes you say, hey, we'll pick somebody and give them this. Or we've done them where, hey, if we get we'll give an iPod Touch to, with alumni, if the top 2 people or top 5 that we pull out of a bucket. But yeah, give incentive to do it because, that's a cheap way to get really good data. Really good data because this is your audience really specifically telling you where you fail and what they want to see.
We do incentivize, by the way. I get a lot of, I don't want to say pushback. People keep asking me among my administration, we can't go survey them again. They're going to be exhausted by surveys. You look bad if you go out there and you go another month later and you ask them questions again. And typically when we do surveys, because of the email addresses we have that are verifiable, it's from our own student population, which is fine. We have a lot to ask them. But there's this, does anyone ever get tired of taking surveys? I don't think it matters because I think they just delete it and don't do it. Yeah. And they really don't care if you send them an email, once a month and ask them to answer it. But I get a lot of people saying, no, they're going to get tired of it and they don't want to do it. So I'm just wondering, is there data out there about...
The data says, the question is there a number, how often you should survey people? Can you hit them up too much? My advice and kind of what I would suggest doing is getting to the point where you ask them so small, so specific surveys that you're not going to annoy them. If you ask somebody 2 questions, they're a lot more likely to respond to that survey because there's only 2 little things that's going to take them a minute to do it. But if you expect somebody to do a 10-minute long, 15-minute long survey, you'd be lucky if you get 5% response. So think about that when you build surveys. Think about that when you build forums. Do you really need to ask for all that information? If you ask for their email address, most likely on your end, you've got the rest of that information somewhere. Do you really need to ask them for their home, their email? Of course you get their email. You need their street address, you need their phone number. Sometimes you do, but a lot of times if this is to a specific audience that you're already familiar with, and they're already familiar with you, you don't need to waste their time with all this extra information because you've already got it. So there are a billion social networks out there. There are a billion stuff to track, and this has probably already been beat to death anyway. I would agree with Brad that Facebook's probably more important than MySpace for college students. And kind of my theory on that is kids that go to college are on Facebook, kids that don't go to college are on MySpace. I've seen a lot of that. I've seen numbers that back that up. But that's not always the truth, and you need to do both. You need to see what your audience is. You need to start measuring, come up with a game plan, figure out how you want to do it, then crawl onto it and see, all right, this is obviously working, this isn't. Well, then you give up on your MySpace page. Who cares? You give up on it. But you got to go ahead and do it. LinkedIn is working really well for us in alumni right now. And then, of course, Twitter, go ahead and just schedule it and get it. But you can also monitor these kind of things. Facebook does a good job of helping you. You can monitor your growth. And we've got over 1,000 people in our Facebook institutional page. There's only 1,300 students in our school. Our MySpace page has maybe 100. So just, we learned through actually doing it which one was being effective. And then once you do that, because you're not really spending a whole lot of time. The big picture is you want to build these landing pages on these other sites that get people to come back to your site and engage with you. You don't want to spend in my opinion, you don't want to spend all your time building all this content on Facebook because ultimately it's hard to control. You're not necessarily going to know all that's out there. But if you can build your Facebook page where it's got a link to go subscribe to emails coming from you, it's got a link to go watch your videos, it's got a link to go apply your school, to go see a virtual tour, to read your blogs, then you're getting them to come back to your site. You're not investing too much time and energy in all these platforms. But you are having a presence there. To give you an example, I know this isn't what this presentation is about, but Furman University across the, up the road from us didn't have a MySpace page, but somebody went and set up a page, a copy of them and called it FU from Furman University. And they went ahead and grabbed that. And you're talking about bad branding just because they didn't have an official site. You've got to have the official site anyway. That if someone sees that, well, they also know there is an official one there. If you didn't know any better, you might even think that is their official one. It was, well, you wouldn't, but I mean, it's still, if you have an official presence, then it kind of discredits those other ones more. LinkedIn doesn't do a good job now measuring anything. And I would always recommend you do spreadsheets. Keep spreadsheets of your important goals, what you care about. This is just, and when we started our LinkedIn campaign at the beginning of the summer, my goal was to get 200 people in this group. That was my goal. I set up a goal before we started doing anything. And then we decided how we're going to get there. And as you can see, I set up a Google, this is actually a Google Doc for a Google chart, to actually measure how that was being successful. And then we laid out a roadmap, like, how do we want to get to 200? Well, we're going to use a lot through email. We're going to get our career service people to talk it up to students. We're going to do some promotion on our Facebook group to young alumni. And then we set out a goal to get there. And then we measured over time. And this doesn't actually show, I think we're up to 280 now. It's still growing a little bit. But once we kind of hit our goal, we knew this is what we want to do. We kind of back off on it a little bit and focus on other things. Video analytics going to the long tail again. Google or YouTube does a good job of it. If you go look at your analytics of your videos, this tells you which videos are working and which aren't. Before, of course this takes a while. None of this happens overnight. You've got to be producing content and videos. But after a while, looking at analytics, you start to learn what works and what doesn't work. And the only way to do it is to do it. I can sit there and tell you this worked for me, or Brad can tell you this worked for him, but every audience is different. Every prospective student is different. And how your students react to something is completely different than how mine might react to it. But you have to just do it, and then you start filling out. Well, the number one thing up here is Wofford College Fraternity Vid Day. Well, we know, hey, Vid Day stuff. Well, maybe we can get some more of that kind of stuff out there. We can be more effective in the videos that we're producing. And this goes to another big piece of it, monitoring your online identity. And some people talk about it. Of course, there's Google Analytics up there in the right-hand corner. I like Google Analytics, but I want more. And I wrote a post about this. There's actually, is it Monitor This? I think maybe that's not right. But it'll give you basically an RSS aggregate of all these services that you can really get a big picture, more than Google Analytics, of what's going out there. You ask, why is this important? Well, we had somebody out there on a blog bashing on our school. But if they're talking, we beat somebody in basketball. And it was kind of a big deal, and they were out there trashing our logo and said, hey, Wofford's logo looks like it was done in Word or something. It's just a standard W. I mean, Notre Dame has nothing but a gold helmet. So, but we could do legal recourse of that because they put up, our image, and here they are bashing it. So we could actually respond to that. Well, we wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't know about it. So, knowing is half the battle. If you don't know about what's being said out there, how do you respond to it? And responding to it is so important because especially in these user-generated communities, if somebody's bashing you and you can come in and say, hey, I'm sorry you feel that way, I do care, how can I make that better? Well, there's probably a 50% chance that person who's bashing you might actually take that to heart and change their attitude and come back, but you're also posting that out there. And anybody else that reads this, well, yes, they'll see the bashing, but right after that, they'll see that, hey, look how the school responded to this. They do care. They are out on these media. They do care and want to make people happy. It's a way to make your audience, realize that you do care. Just to give an example of our...
So just on that point, who do you see should take on that role as far as responding? Like, is that you as the web guy, or you have your public affairs team that will respond? Like, how do you get the official message?
So the question is, who should respond to something like that? Personally, I would say no to the web guy. I think you do need your PR, your news service people responding to that. And they all track Google Alerts, but there's a lot of stuff still that I'll catch that they won't catch. I'm like, hey guys, have you seen this? To me, it's not my job to go out there and respond to those things, but it is my job to know about them. If it's on the web, it's my job to know about it, and there are people in the institution that can handle those kind of things. Maybe if it's something really silly, maybe I could just, if it was more of a technical thing, maybe I would be able to respond. But that's probably not going to be the case. Everybody know what TED conference? You know, we had our president, probably, some of y'all might have even seen this video, Bernie Dunlap did. Yeah, he loved about it.
Can you say that phrase? That weird phrase you use, and it's like in Polish or whatever?
No.
I'm not saying it.
No. Tune me out. Earmuffs.
What ifs?
Earmuffs. But he did a video for the TED conference, and it was this fantastic video. And the rule of thumb, we'd always thought if the video is more than 5 minutes on, people weren't going to watch it. But here was this 20 minutes long video, and it was the exception to the rule. And it got all over the blogs. Well, Chris Brogan actually posted it on his video on 30 or 40 other people, and I wrote a post about it. But here's a great opportunity for us to get out there. So we did email campaigns to push it, but we also needed to know where it was and to kind of monitor some of that chatter of what these people were saying about our school. It's a great opportunity to get exposure. But even then, you've got to know what's going on in these little buckets of these little blogs. I had to read his blog for like one post to see what people were saying about it before I unsubscribed again. So we kind of went through all kinds of stuff. I know I bored y'all to death, but really it comes back to 4 things. 4 things that if you have nothing else you take away, these are your 4 things. Number 1, set goals. Set goals before you do anything else. If you want to do whatever, and I'll give you some goal examples here in a minute, but make sure there's business goals, not web goals. Not, I want to get this much traffic to my site. No, wrong. I want to get, it's more, I want this many conversions, or I want this many people to donate, or I want this many people to do whatever, to download a viewbook, to apply to our school, to schedule a visit, business decisions. Or it can be more trend related. I want to get 20% increase in traffic to this site. Yes, that's more of a web, but it's still, it's a growth. It's not a hard number. I want to get a trend. I want to get more people to do this. And then go for that. Come up with these kind of goals and then decide, base your decisions on your campaign. Well, how do I go about getting 20% more people to come to this page? Well, what if I put a link on this page that's getting 1,000 people to visit it a day? You don't want to clutter it up, but what if I can put a meaningful link in a location that makes sense to get people to do specifically what I want to do? With our LinkedIn campaign, well, how do we get people to do that? What if we put a graphical link on the alumni homepage to say, hey, come join our alumni group on LinkedIn? How can you go about building these campaigns to making these things happen on your site? Always be testing. There's so much stuff you can be testing. I mean, anything, any little thing. You always just play with something. Don't get caught up in the numbers. Look at the trends. It's so easy to look at the numbers and say, oh my gosh, we had 1,000 visits yesterday, we got 2 today. What happened? Look at the trends. How's it going over time? Now, when you do start segmenting your data, we're talking about you're getting to specific audiences. Yeah, you can start looking more at the numbers, but then big bucket data, that's kind of meaningless because it could have been you had 1,000 visits because everybody in your news service department was rewriting and redoing and republishing that news release, and they were going and reading, making sure it was right, so they had all this traffic. But once you start segmenting out and looking off campus, then you start noticing, well, the day before they had 10 visits, the day they had 2. Okay, that makes more sense. Don't get caught up in the numbers, look at the trends. And then most importantly, set a reporting schedule and track key metrics. Now that you set your goals, now that you're always testing little things, now set up a schedule. I like to spend 1 day a month. If there's 20 business days in a month, and I spend 1 day, 8 hours a day, that's 5% of my time. That's pretty doable. But I spend 1 full day digging through this, seeing what happened in the previous month, looking at my key metrics, what are the key things I care about, and then I can also say, what do I want to do next month? Now that I've got this, we got 1,000 visits to this month. I want to get 1,200 visits next month, and then that's my goal for the following month. And then at the end of the month, I see, was that successful? Did I accomplish that? No, we got more work to do. But you've got to get to the point here where you should never install a tool and then start looking at it. No. And you don't, it's so easy to start looking at data like, wow, this is so cool. Don't look at it. Let it sit there for a month, find out what you want to do, then go look at it. Make your decisions. Know exactly what you want to find before you even open the tool at all. So just to give you examples, some specific goals before I shut up because y'all are tired of hearing my southern accent. X campus visit scheduled a month. That's a pretty good goal. I want to get 100, I want to get 300 people schedule a visit to my school a month. And that should be one every school should do every month. Is set a goal, and then you can see at the end of the month, well, how many people actually scheduled a visit. And you're like, well, we want to do 10% more. And then you build things on other places to kind of draw people into that. I want X number of U-Book downloads a month. You want this is another, if you have your U-Book online as a PDF, and if you don't, you should just throw it up there anyway, because why not? And if that's a goal you really want to push people to download that, well, then you can measure it now, and you can set that. You want to lower the bounce rate on a specific landing page X% over next month. The perfect example is if you have a specific landing page that you use in your email marketing and your print for prospective students, that when they get specific stuff, you don't send them to your normal apply page, you send them to a stripped down one that doesn't give them all this other option, because they're there to apply. That's why they stuck in that URL. That's why they clicked on it. That's why they typed it in. So they maybe have an option of just very few things. It's specifically that. And then you can measure that. A bounce is when they come there and leave. That's not what I want to do. Well, then how can I make this page work a little bit better so we got less bounce? They're being more active. They're actually doing what we want to do. How do I go about doing that? Get donor email campaign to generate X amount of money over the next month. Well, if you set up this kind of a goal and you know how to measure it now, then you're much more prepared to do that. Because going forward the next month, you're like, all right, this is what I want to do. I want to track it this way. And how do we go about, what kind of emails do we need to send out? What else can we do on the site to help drive that? And how do we succeed in that? Increase our video exposure X% over next month. You've got this great new video, you've got a couple great videos. Once you've got all this in place, and it takes time to build this, then you can say, I want people to come watch this video, I want people to watch our whole videos. Well, then you start linking from other sections of your site. Maybe, just a little plug here to come watch a video, a little plug there. You can start building your campaigns around these ideas, and you're succeeding more and measuring it. And you go to your boss and say, hey, look, last month we said we wanted to get 20% increase in videos. We got 18%. How do we get there next month? Promote and increase presence on a social network by X%. You want to get everybody in your young alumni Facebook group, because it's another channel to communicate with and they feel more comfortable. Well, how are you going to go about doing that? So you think about ways to do it, and this gets the social media aspect into it a little bit, but it's a business decision you're doing, not whatever else. You're actually basing what you're doing and making goals that can actually be attained. And I'm done. If there's any more questions, I'll let's completely bore everybody to death. Thank you. Great. You what? That's good. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yes, it's what I really push up. Notice this guy's great. I've actually sent me it kind of gives you, it really lays it out for you. Yes, I'll tell you. But it even gets into like month 2. It's perfect.
It's so important to make sure you've got the same results. Otherwise your results will be see what's happening. Yeah.
This is, I've been doing this a lot of what I've done. And Avanash is such a good guy.
Good. Okay, thank you. This is a really good session.
Everybody got really fun.
That's good. And what we can do is also tabulating the samples and passing so that we can use it.
I'll be your bookie selector. Thank you very much. I'll use it to convert the non-family card.
Somebody come sit here? Somebody sitting here now?
I am. So I think
Was that a good session? It was really good. Why they don't know stuff that I didn't know you could do.
Is this the easy one?
Video. I want the audio, so I'm going to do a screencast.